Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ginger Prime. My name is Brian. If you're new around here, and if you're a returning subscriber, you unlock the title of Goldsmith. Congratulations. Walk into your local jewelry store and see if that causes any kind of excitement and or confusion, and then let me know what happens there. Today, you guys have asked me to watch Asmon's Final Fantasy XIV A Realm Reborn review. If you have not been following his journey through Final Fantasy XIV, just note, he has now crossed over into Heavensward. He has now unlocked the Dark Knight. He is making incredible progress. And honestly, from my perspective, high level, he seems to be enjoying it. I don't know if this video is going to be a reflection of that. So I haven't seen it. You guys have asked me to kind of watch it and give my thoughts about his journey. So as always, thank you for these suggestions. Keep them coming. If you guys like this style of content, hit that like button. If you don't, hit that dislike button. It helps me understand exactly what you guys are wanting and needing out of this content. Now, his video in full will be linked in the description. So if you don't want my commentary and thoughts, you can always just go check it out for yourself. But if you do stick around, let me know what you think. I'm really excited to see more people enjoying Final Fantasy XIV as it's truly an incredible game. And as we gear up to go into Endwalker, it's really great to see people having these massive milestones that they're achieving. So this is just the start. Heavensward is one of the best, if not the best, Final Fantasy XIV story in my personal opinion. So let's see what Asmon thinks about A Realm Reborn.
What's up, boys? About a month ago, I started playing Final Fantasy XIV, and a few days ago, I finished A Realm Reborn. Today, I want to give you a review of that experience. I went through the whole story. I went through all of the post-A Realm Reborn content. I did all of the raids, including all of the ones on Extreme with minimum item level and no echo in order to have as much of an authentic experience as possible. Did not do Savage Coils yet, however. And
so for those of you who don't know, a couple of things is that it's really key that he actually says the most authentic experience possible, because we've obviously seen the battle system change since the fights and the content were originally released. We talked about that in a video over on Work to Game a while back, talking about how Scholar used to be like the Insuna machine. You could actually cleanse so many things with the fairy. That is no longer a thing. And while it might be only really impacts you on a certain story quest or two, overall, honestly, I really love that we see people doing it minimum eye level and running that kind of content, because it exists. There isn't any kind of reward attached into the Final Fantasy XIV universe for that. And maybe one day we'll see them add that in, because I think is essentially it does kind of show minimum item level is a tough fight. You're not getting any of the benefits from the additional stats itself, maybe with some exception of the additional stats that can somewhat be slotted in. The syncing system can be a little bit funky, a little bit strange in Final Fantasy XIV from time to time. So I think that's really key. The other side of it, the fact is he hasn't gone into Savage in A Realm Reborn. All of the content, with the exception of Savage, was typically at that harder level. The raids themselves were already at that top tier level. It wasn't until Heavensward that they introduced more of a story normal mode and then a Savage mode to complement it. So you had that 2-tier difficulty. They experimented with it with one set within A Realm Reborn, and those were even more insane, because the fights originally were already hard enough. So the fact that he's technically, I would say he's already kind of done Savage. This might be Savage +1, and they never kind of followed the system through again. So just for anybody who was confused or interested in that bit of knowledge, there you go.
I have had a very good time. I think that I've actually really enjoyed myself. And before I get into, just in general, why I feel that way, I want to explain kind of what I went into it with the perspective of. Because going into Final Fantasy XIV, as I'm sure a lot of you guys know, I had a million people telling me, oh, you should play this class, you should play on this server, you should play this way, you should keybind this way, you should play in this with this action bar, you should play with this add-on, you should play with a boost, you should not boost, etc. Right? I had a million voices in my head, and a million more voices in my head, and I just was going insane having these people try to tell me exactly how to play a video game. And at a certain point, I just told myself, well, listen, I'm going to play it the way I want to play it. I'm going to do it the way I want to do it. And I heard a lot about the story of Final Fantasy XIV, and I felt to myself that this is a game that is primarily driven by that story, by that narrative process, and that's really what I want to focus on. So I played a lot of the game primarily as a single-player game. Mm-hmm. I went through the quests, I read everything everything involved. And the ironic thing is that if I wasn't streaming it, I wouldn't have done that. And I feel like I've had a better experience because I did stream it, which is usually not the case with streaming video games, because whenever you're playing it off stream, you'll have more time to take everything in. But the reality is I know myself, and I wouldn't have read the stuff in the same way that I did whenever I saw it and I did it on my stream and experiencing it with you guys. So I want to talk to you guys all about where those high points were, where the low points were, and just in general kind of how I felt about the whole story. Now, if you want to take a broad approach to the Final Fantasy story, I find that one thing that's very interesting about it...
Actually, before he continues on, because like this is the thought that has just literally been ping-ponging around my head while he's kind of finished his thought there, is that I actually stream and play 14 like way differently than I do when I play it privately. Last night, I was playing the game by myself, and it was great. I was just experiencing the story, reading the cutscenes, where sometimes and this isn't on y'all, this is a me thing. Like I kind of feel like, okay, let me get to the next thing. I'll come back and experience the story later so I can get to the content. It's really cool that he had the opposite approach. Honestly, that's very telling. One of the things that does have me concerned, not necessarily for him, but for the wealth of new sprouts coming in and experience the story and the support they're getting. I hope that continues on through Endwalker. One of the things that we do expect, and it'll be neat to see if has been a cultural shift in the 14 community when Endwalker's released. Typically, when it's current content, when it's current story, when you're caught up, a lot of people want to have that protected. They want to experience it for themselves. So streams tend to be quieter. They tend to be slower. They tend to be, maybe people are just lurking, but they've got you muted. They're lurking for support, but they don't want to see it yet because they want to see it for themselves. So we need to see how many, if the sprouts who are getting this kind of attention, not just with Asmon, but I think Asmon will be fine. His community is his community, but with a lot of the people who are coming up and finding success streaming Final Fantasy XIV, like hopefully we can help educate them that it's okay during Endwalker if a lot of people don't come in right away, right? They want to have that pure experience. Anyway, that's just the thought that was rattling in my head when he was talking about it.
Is that there are very few characters and very few forces in Final Fantasy that are purely chaotic evil. If you want to look at the Dungeons & Dragons alignment chart, there are very few pure evils in Dungeons & Dragons. There's a lot of them, but in Final Fantasy, there are actually very few of those. And oftentimes, as you learn more about the story, you'll learn that many times the evil is misunderstanding, or the chaotic nature of something is misunderstood. And I find that to be very interesting, and I think also it lends itself to telling much better stories in terms of redemption and also in terms of retribution, because I find
it helps make the characters and the motivations of the villains, you can empathize with them. Like, we can disagree on the methods, but we can understand the root cause, and it allows for empathy to come in and hope to persist through the struggle.
Find that to be much less common in Final Fantasy than it is in, let's say, World of Warcraft. And I've noticed that in many cases with the game, that, this character that does this terrible thing is granted, they atone for their sins, and they're sorry, and they willingly turn themselves in. And I think that degree of redemption, and that degree of kind of, I think, true moral grayness is... it lends itself to creating a more compassionate player base in a way, because I think that gives people the narrative idea inside of the story that sometimes whenever people do things that are bad, you might not necessarily understand exactly why these things are happening. And so it's kind of interesting to see how the player base is different from other MMOs, and see how some of that could be reflected from the narrative storytelling inside of the game, and how that imprints onto the player base. And I think for me personally, the high points in a story, I had a few high points in a story, definitely. I thought the one thing that was so fucking cool was Garuda, right, with the song and the music and everything like that. The fight itself was okay, it was fine, but I really liked the song for it and the music. And then later on doing Ultimate Weapon on Extreme, I thought that was really, really cool, just because of how flashy and just absolutely dazzling it was. And
cannot argue with that.
In the story itself, the narrative itself, when did I really find myself attached to it, and when did I really care?
Okay. This is really
I think the first time that I found it to be very interesting, and I really thought it was cool, was in the Coils of Baphomet, or whatever you call him.
I love his presentations.
Whenever Alphanod the Redditor and his sister Alan.
As somebody who struggles with pronunciations, I adore what he calls the characters and what he calls the locations.
I'll say they meet their grandfather, Louis, and
we got that one.
They're like, well, what the fuck happened? Like, how is Baphomet still alive? I thought you killed him. And you know what happened all those years ago in the Calamity? And then it just he just looks to the side, and then it fades out, and it plays a full fucking CGI cinematic of this guy literally turning into a phoenix, a primal. The guy himself turns into a fucking primal, and turns into a fucking Kamehameha bolt, pierces Baphomet's heart, fucking basically almost kills him, and then rebirths the entire world. And to see that in an actual cinematic, whenever you don't really know what happened, it's very gray.
It's tied into
find the story and realize that something that you thought was evil or whatever was actually just the most pure action that you could possibly take. I think that was just so incredible and so cool. And that was, in terms of like a what's the word for this? In terms of a like theatrical perspective, I think that was definitely a high point. But if you want to talk about like what really got me and what really made me feel like this story is fucking cool and this is like really special, is actually whenever you were going to the top of the fallen airship. Apparently there was like some big war, and the dragons interceded in the war, and it's this like giant dragon, like Midgard Sommer, like wrapped himself around like the main like flagship, and the flagship went down, and it killed everybody on the ship, obviously, and also killed the dragon. And but the dragon wasn't necessarily dead. Nobody really knew what was wrong with the dragon. Nobody knew what was going on. But there was an idea that the dragon was calling to the other dragons to attack this other place. So you go up, you ascend the top of the ship, and you finally get to the top of it, and you see the dragon, and the dragon's eyes turn red, and it starts talking to you. And the dragon, it was supposed to be fucking dead. And now you're just having this conversation with this dragon. And what I thought was so fucking cool about that is that, especially even in a game like Final Fantasy, it becomes even harder to do this, is that you have these moments in certain stories where the storytelling takes a story that has a scope of this, and it turns it into this.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to have a moment like that and have it be as pure and as sublime as it has to be in order for it to really have that real pure impact and that real emotional response. And I actually think that they did an incredibly great job with that. And that's where I really kind of got hooked, because I think to myself, like, where is the moment that takes the scope of what you experience, and it takes the mysticism and the mystery and the fantasy of the universe that you're part of, and it just multiplies it. And I thought of a few examples, right? I think that in terms of like a personal example for me, it was whenever I was off the coast of Westfall in World of Warcraft, and I just started swimming in a direction, and I found the Gurbashi Isle. And I thought I ran the game at level 11 or level 15 or something. And then I see these guys that are level 63 elites, and I'm like, oh my god, I had no idea what I was talking about. This game is way bigger than I could ever imagined. And if you want to talk about like narratives, like where's another narrative that kind of had this same idea? I can come up with like two examples that are very good, I think, to prove my point. I think that the first example is in Lord of the Rings, whenever Gandalf comes back in the Twin Towers, excuse me, the Two Towers, and he comes back, and they thought he had died. Yeah. And he just, shows himself, fucking disarms everybody else, Gandalf, or, Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas in just a split second, and he's like, I'm back, I beat the fucking Balrog. And this was just like, oh my god, right? Because you would have never expected this to happen. And it's like,
I see chat going off about like, just wait till he dies into Heavensward. Yeah. Like, and ARR is such a great game. It's such a great game, but it's a complex game that we have to talk about, because traditionally a lot of players struggle with ARR who might not understand the narrative driven nature of it. They don't understand, especially how it sets up the rest of the game. Could it have been done better? Well, yeah, but it was like, in the context of them trying to literally save Final Fantasy XIV, like, choices had to be made. They didn't know Heavensward was going to exist, or Stormblood, or Shadowbringers, or Endwalker, because they had to rebuild the game and rebuild that trust. And they did. And so in the context of history, a lot of the things that people struggle with, especially with the battle system changes, this is something I've advocated, that We see more off the global cooldowns brought in a little bit sooner, because when you go back and play at those levels, like skills that used to be there are no longer there, or they've been changed in a way. So the combat does take a little bit more to ramp up. And if all you're here is for combat and PvP, like there's some walls there, right? Lazy Peon is an excellent example of this. He literally just started tweeting out that he's actually been reading and playing the story, and now he has a whole different perspective of the game. Like, absolutely. I felt like his critique of the game, I don't agree with the community's response, but he was very critical of it. But he said that he skipped. He said that he did these things. And when you see people do those things and skip, and then they don't enjoy the game, like, it's literally, in my mind, goes hand in hand, right? Hand in freaking hand. Hey, Jan. So it's just like, okay, yeah. And now, and that's one of the things that's really fascinating. And that I was definitely wrong with Asmon, is that originally we're saying like team him up with Lamatod or Scott Zone, or like just somebody who has that knowledge of WoW, and sit here and get him into the raid content. Like, he will, I think we think he will enjoy that, which he has. But the fact that he's taking time to play it in the story, like that in and of itself is, what's his phrase? Like, it's like, that in and of itself, I think, I actually, as a longtime player of it, I really respect that he's taking the time to experience it. If he came out of this and did not like the game, like, I'd still respect his opinion.
It takes the scope of what Gandalf is, what he represents, and everything, and it just makes the world so much bigger. And you have it that occurs in, again, like this very pure and this very, in a way, straightforward and sublime way. And I think that's just what's so special about stories like this. And another example of this that I can use is the clips in Berserk. Whenever, obviously, like Griffith, this is, I think that it might be obvious here, but there are going to be a lot of spoilers in this. So if you don't want any spoilers, you're probably already mad. But step away now. And anyway, Griffith ascends to becoming a member of the God Hand, and he becomes Femto. And all the way up until then, you were just fighting, Guts was fighting and Griffith fighting the Band of the Hawk. They're fighting like different random mobs. They fought Nosferatu Zod, but it was just like some random guy. And the Eclipse, where you literally see, Void and Slon and all of the other members of the God Hand, and they're just there. And it just fucking happens, and it completely turns everything on its head. And again, it takes a world that's like this, and it makes it like this. And I think that moment there really fucking got me. And that's something that I fucking loved it, man. And the thing is you have other stories that try to have a moment like that. But the reality is that a moment like that occurs in a way naturally. And whenever you force it, it's not real. And I think the best example of a moment like that was forced is obviously whenever Sylvanas breaks apart the Helm of Domination and opens up the sky of the Shadowlands. And of course it does have that literal earth-shattering perspective to it, but it doesn't have that emotional connection where like you are, it's like the painting where like, man touches God.
Yeah. And
it doesn't have that divine presence to it that I think a lot of the other previous examples did. And actually, I think with all of those examples, literally a divine presence. But the point is that's the point in the story where I really, really was engaged. And I thought that was really special and really cool. And other than that, I want to say the story in general, I think, was much better than what I had expected it to be.
Yeah.
I think that especially for an MMO, I can see why so many people they're invested in the story and why so many people care about it so much. And I'm not surprised. I think that it's incredible. I think it's very well designed. And I'll be honest, there are many cases in the story where I was very angry. I was like, just fucking kill him, kill him, kill him, kill him. And, I think I probably would have been right, to be honest. But that's the way the story goes. And it does make me very excited to see what Heavensward is going to have as well. Now, whenever you talk about like the combat itself, I think that the 2.5 second GCD, I knew, assumingly, like this is... people said the raids were hard. Like, there's no way somebody's going to say the raids are hard whenever you can only hit one button every 2.5 seconds. So I knew that there was more to it than that. And
there's also a ton of example out there. videos, combats, guides, like heck, even like the content that I put out for controller guides. Like there are, it's a weird balance, because the question is that do you constantly add in new skills? And I hope that we'll see more traits come in to play, but 2.5 is only last you so long. And even you start talking about monk and ninja and some of the ways that you can overall like have that much faster. Like it gets to the point where I'm like, after like, especially at 80, I think it's, I don't know how's it going to feel at 90, but it just becomes like, oh my gosh, you need that time. You need that time. And then it matters actually the idea is that how do you as a gamer always be doing something, finding there's plenty of things to do, especially within that time itself. But the thing is, my point is that there's so many examples of that. Like if you're like, hey, yeah, level 1 is kind of slow. Like I have one, maybe like, I got a new skill. Like, okay, like how are you new to RPGs? If it was that way, obviously, Cap, I think people wouldn't be professing their love for the raid content as they do.
Big surprise there was. I think the raids in general are very well designed. They're definitely not, at least the Realm Reborn ones, and again, this is excluding Savage Coils that I have not done. The Realm Reborn fights do not have the same type of like mechanical and DPS requirements that something like Mythic Castle Nathria, Mythic Sanctum of Domination would require in World of Warcraft. But I think that it's kind of like comparing something that came out in like Wrath of the Lich King raids versus the Realm Reborn raids, and in that case it's much more of a closer comparison. So I do really look forward to doing more of the raids, and I felt like. It's funny because as a tank, usually you just sit there and tank, right? That's about it. But we did Ramua, or the Forest Lord, the Lord of Levin, and
the Beard Master.
We did him, and it was like, again, right? This is what I used to have to do as a tank. Now I have to do this, and I'll admit there was a little bit of growing pains there. It was hard for me to do, but I'm glad that I did, and I look forward to doing more fights like that as well.
Oh man,
I think that there's a certain degree of overcoming challenges and winning in that way, especially whenever people know that something is difficult, and to overcome it like that's fulfilling to me, that I do find fun, and I think that a lot of my audience enjoys it as well. So I do really enjoy the raids. I think that's probably, if I had to say, like, why do I really, really like playing the game, besides the Gold Saucer, why do I really, really like playing the game? It's because of the raids. I think that the raids are the most enjoyable thing for me. They're the most fulfilling thing for me, and they feel the best whenever we complete them and whenever I get better gear. There's like little small things, right, where like I wish that the numbers in the game displayed differently, kind of more like World of Warcraft. I feel like the truth is that Classic WoW, I think, has the best floating combat text of any game pretty much ever. And I'd love to see that, every other game from the future, from the rest of the time, just take what Classic WoW does and just do that. But overall, it's not that big of a deal. And I do think that the less of an emphasis on damage meters in general and damage in general does allow players to focus more on the mechanics and take in the aesthetics of the fight rather than the specifics of the fight. And I think that does make for a more holistic experience. So overall, I've had a really great time. I think the story has been very compelling to me, and especially now that we're entering into Heavensward, and I'm now talking to... what's his name? I'm thinking of his name, Count Dripula. Count Four Temps or something like that? I don't remember. But that's Count basically Dripula. Where we're at now in the story. I did the whole Dark Knight quest line. I think that was really fun. But it's funny for me to see that there's a lot of people that told me, oh, Realm Reborn is going to take you so long and you're going to get so bored. It's like, what do you mean? Like, I'm going to get bored? Like, this is literally a quest that takes me 15 minutes. Like, how am I going to get bored in 15 minutes? Like, you stupid? I did a achievement in WoW that required me to get 250,000 honorable kills. And in an entire day of farming, you would get maybe 1,000 or 2,000. Are you kidding me that I would get fucking bored? Not a chance. So I really enjoyed that a lot, and I think all the little side activities like the Gold Saucer, like the Chocobo racing, etc., I find those to be very fun as well. And it sounds stupid, but I'm actually really excited for the jumping puzzles in the game. Apparently there's one in Stormblood or something like that I'm going to be doing. I watched Rich fail on it for many hours. So either way, I'm just having a good time. I'm enjoying myself. It's fun. I'm playing the game off stream and just trying to do what I want to do, and I've missed that a lot. Again, I think I say this in all of my videos as I'm wrapping everything up here. I'm not quitting WoW. I really enjoy WoW as well, but it's been great to be able to play something different and to have a different perspective on the game. And I think that it's helped me a lot. I really appreciate everybody who's been so supportive over this past month and everything, with just watching the streams and just being positive in general. Not only with the Final Fantasy
really
content, but with the stuff that I did with WoW, and also the stuff that I did with New World 2. And I look forward to doing more things like that that are different and more variety focused in the future. And I really appreciate you guys giving me the confidence to be able to do that. So thank you. And I also look forward to doing Heavensward and getting, apparently if you get all the birds in Heavensward, you get like this massive like golden mass, I don't know, like a golden Lugia pretty much. Like
you get it also in ARR.
We're doing that one. That's going to happen.
Each
100%.
expansion has that.
And
like all the mounts.
I just
I'm
having fun, man. It's really enjoyable for me to just go through the game in the very, very measured way that I have, and just take every experience one at a time and try to do everything in the most authentic way as I can. So either way, I want to say thank you guys all so much for watching. I've really enjoyed the game, and I look forward to apparently doing the fun part of the game, because I enjoyed the post A Realm Reborn content. I thought it was completely fun. So if that was fun and that was enjoyable for me, I fully expect that Heavensward will be 1,000 times better, and I look very much forward to doing it myself. So that's about all I've got. I've enjoyed myself a lot, and I look forward to doing a lot more. So until next time, boys, peace.
Oh, let's see here. Pause. There it is. My boy, just let me tell you, people watch your streams because of you. All the other stuff's are extra. You stream in different games will help you find even more people to enjoy your shenanigans. Count Dripula. I mean, technically, he's not wrong. Oh, I can't even see it because it's off screen. Ridiculous. All right, there we go. Oh, heck yeah. Count Dripula, dude. Count Dripula got me, man. Like, that was freaking hilarious. I don't know. I didn't know Asmon liked Berserk. He's a true man of culture. At the end of the, like that. One of the things that was a common critique of 14 is that he said it himself, weeb, as a term, which I'm like, I didn't even know what that term meant. I didn't. I had to go look it up. I was like, oh, it's an insult. All right. I like Japanese games, but it's taken to an extreme because just liking Japanese culture isn't what that implies. It's like you surrendering your, like, forsaking your own culture and adopting this, and I'm like, okay, I don't care. I don't think it's a weeb game. I think that was just a wall put up to sit here and say, like, okay, that tribalism wall is put up between games. But the fact that he also then, when I thought that when he was talking about it, I was like, anime, interesting. Like, my assumptions are incorrect, and he's continuing to disprove that, which is really exciting to see. We got 45 seconds till the giveaway ends, guys. I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled that Asmon's loving the game, because if he's already liking this, I can't wait to see how he compares what's to come to this. And honestly, I think everybody should be really excited to see how this continues to play out, because if ARR is the wall and a lot of people struggle with it, I think ARR is essentially that really good starting point. But that's it, guys. Thanks so much for watching. This has been Ginger Prime, aka Brian. Hopefully you enjoyed this type of content. If you guys want me to do more of it, let me know. If you guys want me to do less of it, fear not. I'm not a reaction channel, so I only do this for you guys, for the videos that you guys send over and ask me to check out. So hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, like, favorite, subscribe, share, clip, all that social media stuff, and I'll see you guys in my next one. But until then, take care. I just want to say thank you so much for watching this video, and if you're listening to this voice, you are a special person, and I really do appreciate it. If you feel like watching more, YouTube's got its recommendations for you on the screen. Otherwise, I hope to see you soon. Bye.